Hi. Hi. This is Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
I'm Allison.
This is a podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens.
And we're doing that because we grew up together. We made movies together in the backyard. Neither realized that the other was queer until, unfortunately, I had to move very far away. It was very sad.
Moving far away made you realize you were queer.
Eventually.
You know what they say? Distance makes the heart go gayer.
I actually think I would have realized it a lot sooner.
Why?
Because in Seattle, all the Catholic schools are co-ed. And in Pennsylvania, most of them are single sex. And I think, weirdly, being in a single sex environment without being surrounded by a lot of people like flirting in the hallways, like I just think I was able to like ignore it and not explore it.
Ignore it, not explore it. You guys, it's the summer. Allison and I both have orange popsicles. Don't mind us. It's June gloom in LA. Can't remember if it's going to be June when this episode comes out, but oh well. Allison and I are here to talk about the movie The Watchers.
And why are we talking about this movie? It's not queer. Well, actually, I do have an argument for why it could be queer.
It is queer.
You agree?
Allison's pointing her popsicle at me.
Actually, I like having a prop.
Yeah, it's your sixth finger. Allison's sixth finger.
So creepy.
Just like this movie.
It was. Well, why did we pick this movie? We've hinted at it. We've alluded to it. This is a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. In one other podcast episode.
It's a holiday.
It is directed by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, Ishana.
Night Shyamalan.
Is her middle name also M? Oh, wait, no.
No, it's
That's his first name.
Night.
But so she has the same middle name. Sorry, you are suckling that so loud.
I won't do it anymore.
Allison's suckling on her sixth finger.
No. No.
Now she's waggling her sixth finger at me.
I regret accepting this popsicle.
The Watchers.
Yeah. So basically the reason we're doing this is because our origin story is that the very first time we ever made a movie together in our backyards was when I came over to sleepover. It was a weekend.
We should give the backstory that we were neighbors growing up.
Yeah, neighbors lived around the corner. I was in Joe's sister's class and we were best friends. And I would often head over to the Murphys on the weekends. In fact, in some ways in my mind at that time, I think my main goal for every weekend was how can I be invited over for a sleepover? Because your house was really fun because you had many siblings. And I just feel like we were able to get up to more antics than at my house. I don't know. I feel like I did things like I luged down large.
You luge?
You don't remember we'd get into the wheelbarrow and luge down that giant hill?
What does luge mean?
It means like...
Is luge what you do with your sixth finger over there?
It's like when you get in a sled and you...
Luge?
How do you not know what luge is?
I've never heard that word before.
I'll Google it for you so you can see an image. Hang on. I have to...
Oh, is your sixth finger getting in the way as you try to type?
Luging is like a sport. When you're on a sled and you're going down a downhill. Like bobsledding.
Okay.
Like, you know in the Olympics when that person died in that event?
No.
How do you not know about these things?
Let's move on.
Okay, well, basically...
I'm going to luge past this.
I was able to do many more exciting rule-breaking things. And so...
If there's one thing about the Murphys that I liked, was the luging.
Down the hill in the red wheelbarrow. And we went on your roof one time. I wasn't allowed to go on my roof.
Well, your mom was afraid you're going to luge right off.
She's probably right.
That girl loves to luge. I don't want her luging from a high height.
Okay. So, also other important context to this backstory is that my family is from Pennsylvania and from the exact same area of Pennsylvania where M. Night Shyamalan is from. And he famously sets all of his movies, with the exception of Old, in Pennsylvania. And even in that movie, one of the characters are from Pennsylvania. I mention it. All of this to say is my parents, the very first hits from M. Night, loved it. You know, I was very much exposed to this, even though they were horror movies. And I saw signs actually before I saw it over at the Murphy household, which is unusual because I feel like I saw movies for the first time at your house. So when I was there for a sleepover and we decided to watch Signs, I said, guys, this movie is really scary. And Joe was like, whoa, she means it, right? Isn't that what you said?
You are waggling that finger so much at me.
It's to be communicative. It's another way of communicating. So then what happened when we were watching the movie?
I was like, oh my goodness. We must create a shot-by-shot remake of it.
Yes. And so Joe was the director and the videographer. I was Mel Gibson. And we had a lot of fun. And then I feel like my next purpose in life became, how can I get over to the Murphys and how can I star in a movie? I need to make a movie. That's really what it was all about for me.
In the end, we didn't make that many more.
It felt like we made so many.
But
Like, to me, it feels like we did all the time. But I guess.
The Australian Kangaroo.
And the sequel.
Which I don't remember as well. But Australian Kangaroo was about.
It was about a hotel.
In Australia, run by an American.
And a British woman. And an Irish lady.
Why were there no Australians in it?
I swear we must have seen some movie that like put all of these elements together. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there was like the English character was really rich and the Irish person was really poor, and they had like class tension, and the Australian American woman like brokered the peace between them. And then it ends. Okay, it's a ridiculous but very fun and fond international story.
But what were the other movies that we made?
Artificial Sweetener.
That was a TV show.
Oh, a reality TV show. I feel like we made a horror film that didn't have a name. With the bread knife.
Yes. One of my sisters is like cloaked in purple sheets. And we like wanted a scary image of her like in the hallway, like in the darkness. And we wanted her to have like a butcher knife that she like brings into the light. I thought I was like too dangerous. So I said, give her this like bread knife, which is like this like long, really skinny knife with jagged edges. It looked really ridiculous.
Okay, and then we did, how can I forget? The Secret Garden.
Oh, yeah.
And that was about an older sister raising two younger sisters in a shed near a mystical but evil garden that my character was always very curious and troublesome, was trying to get. And then ends with like a sister being possessed.
That's a great reminder, because at times I felt like the watcher kind of felt like I was watching Secret Garden, like they're just like making shit up on the spot.
Absolutely.
Because basically what these movies were, aside from Signs that was very structured, is these movies kind of just were like you guys playing pretend. And you filmed it. I was like capturing it on camera.
That's why I loved it so much. We're inspired by that. We're here today to talk about
the movie.
I am personally going to see every Shyamalan movie always, even if I've lost hope that they will be great. I was going to extend this to his daughter, Ishana.
Last night you were pissed.
But I don't know if I can, because it was pretty bad.
How bad?
I think I would rate it. I don't know. I am very much like a story person. Story-wise, I would give it a D. But in terms of other elements, I would give it a C.
Like what?
Like the cinematography, the tone, that it was set in Ireland. Although I think a lot of Irish people, if anyone sees it, they're going to be a little PO'd, because it was definitely like leading into the like leprechaun, supernatural, mystical, scary Irish landscape.
This movie was
you know,
bizarre.
Little. What's that word that's like when you're kind of like co-opting Irish culture or something like that, but it's like when American people do it? A fake patty or something like that.
A fake patty.
I'm not joking. It's real.
This movie is the fakest patty I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's not what it is, but I'll Google it. Oh, plastic patty. So I feel like there was a lot of that, like kind of using stereotypes about Ireland. And like, you know, the Irish could probably take it.
They're fine.
But it was a little cheesy.
It was a very cheesy movie.
Summarize the plot.
Summarize the plot.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Oh, yeah, you wish that sixth finger was a wand, don't you? That's a little nub. A little melty nub.
This is disturbing me so much. Okay, keep going. That is grosser than anything I did. Okay, go ahead.
A woman that seems to be a little secretive and aggressive and bold and has a really big chip on her shoulder. She's smoking.
Oh my gosh.
In the pet store. And then all of a sudden she's not in the pet store anymore. And her boss comes out and says, sorry, you can't vape at the pet store. The animals don't like it. It's like, well, you think she would have known that a long time ago. What? She just learned this for the first time? This movie's not about a pet shop vaping
You're really
girl.
setting this up in an interesting way.
A girl with a troubled past is given the task of delivering a bird across the county or country. And on that journey, she comes to the woods and becomes trapped there with 3 other people in an unescapable nightmare that also kind of functions as the psyche of her struggling to understand the death of her mother.
I think that was a really generous description. I mean, yeah, that's what it wanted to do.
That's what it wanted to do.
I don't know if it really successfully did
it
that,
did
but
not.
Yeah, and the thing you forgot to describe was that him being stuck in this cabin in the woods, the reason that she's trapped is because there are these creatures in the woods called the Watchers that come out at night. You have to be inside of this house that has a floor-to-ceiling glass window during the day that at night becomes a mirror. So they can only see themselves, but the watchers come and watch them, and they want to see these humans. And you don't know why, but we come to find out it's because they are the fae, the fairies, the mystical folklore of Ireland who used to coexist among humans. They're changelings or whatever.
This is a very big spoiler. This is like you're telling the last.
I just think in terms of talking about it, it's going to be easier. And so they're studying them to adopt their behaviors, appearance, etc., in the hopes that they can like steal their identities and maybe infiltrate into society, possibly. Although they can't because they can't come out during the daytime. So during the daytime, the cast can roam around the beautiful, spooky Irish woods. Yes.
This movie needed a lot of rewrites.
Yes.
Specifically in the dialogue.
Yes.
Some of the most erratic, over the top, expositional dialogue I've ever heard in my entire life happened within like the first 2 minutes of this movie.
You want to say what it was?
In the first beginning of the movie, there's kind of like a cold open of a man running through the woods.
I did not like that part.
And it kind of like felt like when the guy in Goblet of Fire was like running, you know, in like the finale when they're running through the maze, it felt like that. Like it felt like that. For some reason, he's like climbing up a tree and then he falls. And then you see this something in the distance and
it was kind of a little creepy.
Drags him away. And yeah, it was really creepy, but he was like saying things out loud that I was like, why are you saying this?
It was stupid because it's like you wouldn't be doing that. It's like we are smart enough to understand what's happening without him narrating his experience.
He was narrating it. I would have not really knowing what it was going to be about.
Because you knew nothing.
I knew nothing, but Allison and I met at the Grove just yesterday, and we went to the pasta corner.
It was amazing.
I got like a truffle pasta that was really heavy.
Chicken marsala, also really heavy. But did that stop us from getting popcorn candy? No.
No.
I would say, with the exception of some of the dialogue in the beginning and there was like this kind of character thing that was set up. I remember the bad dialogue in the beginning. It was like, I know today is a hard day for you. And she's like, I'm fine. It was like really heavy-handed about how this was a dark day for her. And then I was like, ugh. I forgave that because it was just very like visually stunning. And Dakota's like kind of like edgy.
Dakota Fanning.
I don't care persona. Like I enjoyed that. But then there was like kind of a stupid part where she takes the bird home and she's like, I'm going out tonight to the bird. And then she like puts on a brown wig and pretends and like goes out and pretends she's a ballerina.
Does she like literally say to the bird like, my mom died 15 years ago?
Yes. And it was like, okay. And just like the way.
I'm going out tonight. Don't die. And then the bird's like, don't die. And she's like, I didn't know you could talk. And then she's at a bar in this brunette wig. And this man's like, so an American,
like,
right? And she's like, how can you tell?
It's just like, if you are going to be that kind of person who's like trying on different identities and going wild, I just don't think you would go to Ireland.
Why would you go to a small town?
You would be.
Where surely you've probably run into that man before. Like, why is he like acting like he's never seen her before? He's like, oh, it's the woman who always changes hairstyles.
It really made no sense. So that was a little weird. We should say that some of this writing, it was based on a book. So it's not entirely Ishana Shyamalan's fault. Because I went onto the Reddit page last night about the book, expecting to find kind of like M. Night's last film, Knock at the Cabin Door, was based on a book. The changes that he made to the book, I think, made it a worse story.
Yes.
And so I was kind of thinking like maybe that's what happened here. This is like supposed to be a great book. No, I go on the Reddit page is full of like complaints about this book and how it's like really bad and why is it getting so popular. And then there were a few comments. It was like 2 hours after I saw the movie and the movie came out yesterday. Someone was like, just saw this movie 60 minutes ago. And I came here and I'm very pleased to see that the book also sucked. And it just like made me really laugh. Yeah. But anyway, so I would say in spite of all that, the first 30 minutes up until where her car breaks down, she goes into the woods. I was like, this isn't bad. Like I'm intrigued. Like this is, looks beautiful.
I was intrigued, but Dakota, I felt like her personality was like muffled, but in a really forced way. Like she was trying to be this like edgy, weighted down woman, but it's just like, why are you
acting that way?
It felt so just disingenuous. And like she's like driving on the road and her like sister calls her and is like, hey.
Oh yeah.
It was Mom's memorial and you weren't there.
I'm really worried about you.
I'm really worried about you.
But the part that really threw me the most about this scene, I was trying to get Joe's attention because I was so like, what? And I was trying to get Joe to notice. It's like, huh? It's because it was, and I'm usually not very good at like, if a face is disconnected from a voice, I can't always like, if someone's like, oh, that's so-and-so, I'll be like, oh yeah.
I did see you react, but I thought it's because it was an Ellie fan.
You thought no, it was Dakota. So it was Dakota's voice. I was like, that's her. She's leaving the voicemail. And so then I was like, okay, this either means that she has like a twin sister, or more interestingly, we're being led to believe that this is Mina, but really like the sister died, or she's like taken on the identity of her sister. And I was kind of like, that's intriguing. So I was kind of like, even though it was like a little distracting that they used her voice, I was still kind of.
I thought it was Olwen Fouere. And then also there's a camera shot that kind of reminded me of M. Night Shyamalan. A lot of this movie reminded me of M. Night Shyamalan, honestly. Is the like camera like zooms really close to her face, like is like half her face showing that's like going like really close on her eye or something like that. Like
Yeah,
it was like she's like driving in the car, and then she's driving on a main road, but then all of a sudden her GPS tells her in a few kilometers turn left, and she's like driving through the woods, very clearly like not on
a main road.
A main road. It's like, where are they having you drive?
And then it was like, where am I? Where is
And then it showed as she like made this turn, there was like the last gas station, and there was a sign that showed all these people that have gone missing.
Yeah.
Presumably in these woods. And so she's driving and she's like, where am I? And she was listening to the radio. The radio shorts out, and then her car.
And there were weird symbols, which never really got explained.
I thought it was just like all the different letters were like going off like
Maybe.
haywire.
I thought it was supposed to be like kind of mystical.
And then her car shuts down, right?
Mm-hmm.
She gets out of her car and she immediately starts yelling for help.
That didn't bother me.
In the middle of the forest.
Well, she said something like...
Did she see someone? What would make her think...
She said someone might live nearby.
Who did she say that to?
The bird.
Oh, yeah. And then also, she like conveniently talk about like plot convenience. She is getting out of her car to like ask for help, and she's bringing the bird with her. Like, why did she just leave the bird in the car?
That's a good question.
So she's like wandering through the woods, yelling for help, carrying the bird in its very giant traditional bird cage. She's not finding anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then she turns around. She'd only like gone, you know, 1/10 of a kilometer past her car. She turns around. The car's gone.
So is the road.
Now she's out here with this goddamn canary trying to find somebody, yelling for help. And then you see like a figure in the distance. Well,
and also in the opening scene, there was this thing where like birds fly very quickly. The sun tilts weirdly, and then the monsters come out. So that's happening. So you kind of know she's in danger based on that opening, cold open.
Yeah. So the sun's setting, and all these like crows like fly by over her head.
And then you see the figure of this woman who, let's just describe her. Let's just describe what she looked like.
But we don't see her yet because you don't know, because there was a figure in the beginning of the movie and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the same figure. She's already going to be attacked. But then it shows this person. Mm-hmm. Well, a character choice I really liked is this figure showed up and Mina immediately like runs towards it instead of like
running away, being
afraid of it.
You see her from a distance and she's like in all black. She has like stark white long hair.
She has like a very handsome face.
Yeah, I was going to say very striking face. The lady who plays the grandma in Halloween Town.
Yes.
There's like that kind of energy happening. Yes. Like a witchy Irish energy.
Yeah. This woman leads Play Pretend. She'd be starring in Secret Garden Part 2.
Okay, so then the cabin thing is there. And she is far away. And from the inside of the door, she goes, run if you value your life. And then Dakota's like, all right, and sprints into the thing. They lock the door. Then they explain the situation, how they have to every night stand before the window and the watchers come and watch them. And then they have to just like go about their lives. They just want to be studied. But then the really crazy thing happened. One of the best parts of the movie, they're waiting. Dakota's kind of like on edge. Mina's her name. There's like a girl and a boy, then Irish lady in the cabin. And they're like, keep her calm. You know, it's going to be okay. Mina, don't worry. And then they come. And then there's like this sound of like a standing ovation, but it's like really eerie and muted.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is that? What is that? And they're like, they're applauding for you. It was very chilling.
That was the best part of the movie.
It really was. I was kind of still in it at this point. I was like, too. All right, I'm down to see where this goes.
But then doesn't that also when that one girl's like, I will dance for them. And she like plays a tape and starts dancing.
That might have been a little bit later. That might have been like the next
scene. Because so the first night, there's that really cool applaud scene where it's like they're all facing the
and we can't see what's
mirror,
outside.
So they're just like facing the mirror, but it's like a window in, which is like such a creepy sensation that you can only see yourself. But like outside they can see you. It's what's that called? A double-sided mirror.
And like throughout it, they're like accentuating that theme by having the only TV that's available is like these reality TV show DVDs, like for like a Bachelor type show or like a Love Island type show. So like they are watching human behavior, so are the watchers.
Yeah. But so cinematography wise, it was really cool because the applauding's happening in this first like interaction with whatever the creatures are outside, and then it cuts to an outside shot where you can see that whoever's outside can see clear as day inside the room. It's like really well lit in this like dark forest, and then it does like this overhead high shot, like high above the trees, like looking down where you can like still clearly see the four of them just facing out the window. But the creepy thing is that you can hear the applauding, but you can't see who's doing the applauding. So that was like really effective. And then immediately cuts to the next day, and they're like wandering through the woods.
This is a weird part. They split up every day. Yeah. No. The first day, Mina, Dakota Fanning, is like, I'm getting out of here.
Oh, yeah.
And
then
she's
they
like,
explain...
you can't, if you go past the signs, there's these markers that say point of no return. They're in a circle all the way around the cabin, a certain number of meters away. And if you pass that, you won't be able to make it back in time after dark before the watchers will catch you. But I did have a question about that.
Yeah.
What if you just stepped one toe over? You know, you could make it back. It's kind of silly.
Well, yeah, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, are you saying like you can walk back? Like you couldn't run back? Like what's the...
Like that doesn't mean everyone's different sizes.
Yeah.
I had questions about that.
Also, how were they able to test that theory?
They kept saying the professor figured all these rules out. But then Mina asked no questions about the professor, which I just thought was really strange. Someone keeps referencing a professor. The DVD, it says property of Professor so-and-so. I just feel like, hey, guys, who's this professor man? Where is he? What's his deal? No curiosity was displayed. And that was a little odd. But what happened? So so she tries to leave. She's like, forget it, I'm going to leave. And then why does she turn back? Why does she go back to the cabin in the very first beat?
I forget. Should I look it up?
Yeah, I don't remember at all.
The next day, Mina attempts to leave, but finds there is no way out of the forest. And then it says here that that's when Madeline explains the rules.
When she comes back, she does. She's like, there are some rules if you're going to stay here.
The Watchers kill anyone outside the coop at night. They are afraid of light, and they must never enter the burrows, a set of tunnels around the forest that the Watchers stay in during the day.
But what's hilarious about this part, do you remember this? She's like, you need to know the rules. And then all three of them start repeating the rules.
Oh, at the same time.
No, stay in the light. Do not go into the burrows. Be inside the coop at nighttime. Never turn your back on the wall. It was like really
then, so does it
weird.
Does it cut to the coop?
I think that's when the dancing scene maybe happened.
Okay. But then also it's really weird. They like the guy whose name is Daniel. Daniel's like, are you going to eat your meal because you didn't eat it last night?
Yeah.
It's like, why are you telling us this detail? Like, it was really strict. Like, it didn't have anything to do with anything.
I was also a little confused. I think it was trying to show that he was like a little unhinged.
Or off. Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead.
So then, like that night, do they still have to stand and face the
So my
mirror?
understanding is they have to do that for a little while, but then they can go about and do their like normal things.
Because that's where Sierra starts dancing.
They love when I dance.
And then doesn't Madeline have more rules? She's like, you must never have your back to them.
That was part of the rules, yeah. I think you might have read the rules from the book. Like maybe
but that was really strange.
Because they did have their back turned.
That night, Mina's watching the reality show and she's sitting on the couch and her back's to the window.
Yes.
So Mina goes up to the glass when everyone's not awake and she taps on the mirror. It's like a really cool shot.
It was.
And then nothing. And then she like taps again louder. And then she like goes back and starts watching TV. And then all of a sudden someone taps the same way.
And they get mad. And then they make them all stand in front of
Because do they start banging?
Yeah. And then the old lady's like, everybody get up. Don't worry.
Everything's like fine.
And then it's the next day. But it is odd. Like, it seems like they could get in if they really wanted to. So there's like a question mark that I had about that.
The idea is that they're studying them to become them.
Yes, but we don't know that yet in this
We
point
don't know that,
movie.
but it's like, how long does it take them to...
I think the idea is that it takes them a long time. And then we haven't given the other spoiler yet, which I'm sure people will figure out because it's not that shocking. But we'll save that one, I guess.
Then Mina and Daniel go off, right?
We forgot one part where she goes off with the other girl, Sierra, is her name. And then Sierra reveals that she's like, my husband left 5 days ago, but he'll be back. And we're like, oh, that's the guy that died.
Yeah.
And then Mina's like, how long have you been here? And she goes, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm losing track of the days. I guess if I had to put a number out, I'd say like 5 months. Yeah. And you're like, oh no. And then the next day she goes out with Daniel.
Mina boldly goes down one of the burrows because she has this whole theory. She's like, have you even seen any of these watchers? Are they even real? Which I thought was like an interesting.
And she was like, the woman is lying to you. Yeah. And I wish they had like played with that more.
Yeah.
Because it was such an interesting idea.
It was. So then Daniel somehow has a giant rope.
Well, he catches prey.
He catches the crows, which later on in the movie, your Madeline's like, you haven't been catching the crows and we rely on that for food.
It was
like,
so bizarre. It was like, she was like screaming at him. Like, it's not his fault. It's
like,
winter.
It's like, why don't you
know?
fucking do it, lady? Like, you seem like you'd be into it more than him. So Mina wraps the rope around her and she gets lowered down the deep burrows. And it's like, what else do you think this is? Like, these burrows everywhere. Like, I would not go down there.
I wouldn't, of course not. I would never do anything like that.
Oh, and also what's been happening when Mina's in the forest is she sees
images,
ghostly children in the distance.
Mina and what's the old woman's name? Madeline. How could I forget that? They said that name so many times.
And Mina.
I kind of maybe at first I was like annoyed by the name. I was like, I kind of like this name. It's like really
Mina.
Madeline kept saying, like, the wood can make you hallucinate. It's out to get you, the woods. And so, like...
She said just like that, pointing her sixth finger.
I don't have a sixth finger anymore. I ate my popsicle. It's gone.
It was never there.
Ooh. But yeah, she goes down this hole. And then, honestly, I really like this part. Like, she was down there. She finds all this, like, weird abandoned...
A newspaper from 1992.
A bike.
A teddy bear.
Yeah, and so she's like, just kind of like, it's kind of disturbing, but Daniel reminds her, stay in the light, because if you go outside the light, they can get you. And then
she has a lighter, so she lights it, so then she can go up to the wall and like grab these items. And then it kind of cuts to
them lifting the bike.
Is being lifted up. She's down below. And then you see like a POV of like something in the distance, like kind of
in the hole.
In the burrow walking towards her.
It's very creepy, but then they kind of lose the creep factor.
Now you're back with Mina, and she like can sense that something's behind her, and you're like, oh shit. And she like turns, and you like don't know what it is, but a hand comes to the light with a sixth finger. Yes, there's 6 fingers on the hand.
How do you know that?
Because, well, you come to find out that the Watchers are like trying to like become humans.
Oh, it did say
and
that.
And they don't understand, like, it's like AI, they can't figure out, which, oh my gosh, on Reddit today, it was so creepy. I saw ChatGPT was a picture of a robot. And it says, like, I've learned how to spell.
I don't get it.
Like, AI art has a really hard time spelling words.
But now it can spell.
And now it can spell.
So I'm afraid of a first grader. I don't, like, why is that scary?
How it's learning, how it's adapting.
I think it's cool. Well,
you think AI is cool?
I'm a little afraid of it. Okay, I don't know. I just think, I thought I already knew
learning a communication tool? I'm talking about AI art, like the artwork.
Oh, I think about ChatGPT. So the art knows how to spell.
Yeah.
Now that is creepy. Now I get it. Now I'm a little freaked out.
So it was a picture of a robot
it was
like holding
telling
aside.
us.
Yes.
It was telling us. Are you sure someone didn't just make that up?
I mean, someone probably like prompted it.
That's very freaky. But at the same time, I just think it is a tool. Like, I'm not discounting the danger, but the real danger is people at the end of the day, right? It's like how people use a tool. And so the people who are creating this tool and maybe not putting limits in place are really the villains and not the technology. That's my thought.
So this hand comes out, and all of a sudden, like, you can see as it goes into the sunlight, some smoke coming off the hand.
But honestly, it was really creepy the way this was set up. Like, something's watching her, something's coming, like the tension's building. But that hand looks so silly to me that it like took all the scare out of it for me.
It seemed so human that I was not scared by it.
There was an image in the beginning that didn't look human in the distance that was really disturbing. And so I was like, ah.
But then, did she already have the rope around her, or did she have to wait for the rope to come back down?
I think she like didn't have it around her, but somehow she still got out in time.
It just like cuts to the next
scene, which could have been cool if they had played with the idea that something happened to her down there and that maybe she was an imposter, but they didn't do that. And it feels like a missed opportunity.
So interesting.
I know it would have been awesome, but they
then
didn't do it.
It's not in the Shyamalan nature for the main character to not learn a lesson from their past.
True. But then, okay, also another thing about this drove me mad. They get this bike out of here, and she's like, you said the professor said we can't get out of here on foot, but now you have this bike, so I bet we could escape.
But do you remember Madeline's like, where'd you get the bike? Where'd you get the bike? And Mina's like, oh, I just like found it somewhere. It was like under
a rock,
a bushel. And Madeline, you can tell, just like doesn't really believe her, but she kind of like leaves it alone.
Which now in retrospect actually was kind of smart. Because I thought that was weird that she let the bike come into the house. You know what I mean? When she knew it was from a burrow.
Oh, okay.
But now I can see why she let it happen.
Yeah. But then in the house, are the Watchers making a lot of noise?
I think so. I think it's like clear they're really angry. I can't really remember what.
And do they start throwing things at the
glass? Yeah, I think so.
But how do they
resolve it?
I
don't remember.
Madeline steps in front of them.
Oh,
right?
yes. Which is a scene they felt was important to include. Madeline protecting the young people. It was a striking image.
She's like, they could break the glass. And eventually they throw something really hard and it like cracks the glass but doesn't break it, and then it stops once Madeline like stands in front of them to protect them.
Yeah. And then the next day she throws the bike back down in the burrow hole. I just hate in movies and TV, this happens a lot in like, even though I love The Last of Us, it's like I feel like it happens a lot in video game inspired things. It's good when like you think you get what you want and then it's like not what you need, or it like complicates the plot in some way. But I feel like a lot of times in like video game things, or it's like you get what you want and then it just gets taken away immediately. And like a new challenge is set up. And so like, for example, in The Last of Us, they get that car. And then like literally in the next episode, someone steals the car. And then just like kind of stagnates the plot instead of making it more I don't know. Just something about that kind of feels very video game to me. And here, she's like throws the bike down the hole. And I'm like, I would have rather seen a scene where they tried to use the bike and it doesn't work. Or they fought over the bike. Or like something, you know, like I feel like something should have happened with the bike. It shouldn't just be like brought into the scene and then taken away again. I'm like, that's annoying.
Yeah.
This is when it starts to fall apart for me. The next part is when they are in the cabin. It's nighttime. Oh, wait. Where did they find that? So they still have some of the material?
We skipped the camera.
Oh,
we skipped a big moment, actually.
Okay, we forgot. So this is how they do the retribution for taking the bike. They also found a camera. And this is what starts to fall apart for me because 1, Madeline lets the bike come in. 2, she lets them set up a camera so they could see out the door. I'm like, why is she letting this happen? And then that night, the watchers aren't coming. And then all of a sudden, like this pair of bare legs are seen in the camera.
Knocking on the door.
And it's a voice, and Sierra recognizes it.
Which I'm confused. Where was the camera placed? Like they just
right outside the door, and then they somehow fed it to the TV.
But it's not even angled where the watchers would
That's so
be,
true.
unless the watchers like why would watchers be staring at the door?
Such a good question.
Only for the purpose of the plot.
A good question.
So I was like confused because I was like, shouldn't the camera be pointing towards?
Which was a cool line because it was like, now we can watch them, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
But then no.
Just a pair of legs show up.
And then he's like begging to get in, and it's her husband, so she wants to let him in, but like Madeline's like, no, don't do that. Like, we can't let anyone in. We're not supposed to open the door after the dark. It's a rule. It's not him. Ask him something only he would know. And I'm okay. It's like kind of fine. It's a little melodramatic. But then Madeline, Daniel, and Mina begin to argue amongst themselves.
And Sierra's left at the door by
and
herself.
Sierra is like, her goal as a character right now is open that door, and she just doesn't do it until
Madeline like, turns around,
back.
and then Sierra's like, I'm going to open this door now. It's like, you've been alone with the door this whole time. Why haven't you done this? It's your husband who's outside the door.
And then they instead convince her to like put your face down from the camera so they can see that it's really you. We can let you inside.
They say, ask him a question that only he would know the answer to, which then she proceeds to ask kind of a complicated question.
Yeah.
That like isn't very deep. That's kind of superficial and also could be very forgettable. She's like, what book am I reading?
Well, yeah, but then she kind of explained it by being like, we bought it together at the bookstore and you said it reminded you of me and did
Of all things.
I know. You should ask something like,
what's my birthday? Like literally.
I feel like that could be found out though.
By the watchers? When?
I just think like it should be something like personal and specific. Like, what do I always put on my toast in the morning? Like something they just could never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on the book question.
It was like their version of looking up the thesaurus of
yes, it was like
asking your partner.
Kind of an eye-rolly question.
Yeah. And
then it was the put your face in front of the camera thing.
And he doesn't know the name of the book, by the way.
Like, I kind of like could have believed it because he was like, I just don't remember. Like,
Yeah.
I'm hurt. And I was like, kind of.
They were trying to come up with the question where it's like, oh, like I could see where someone doesn't.
Because of the stress and the da-da-da.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he puts his face in front of the camera and immediately he gets yanked away. And that's when they start freaking out.
But Madeline also seems to have a lot of, like, before he gets yanked away, she's like, don't you know the Watchers? They're full of trickery. These woods, the forest, they play tricks on people. Don't you know this?
She had a lot of, like, mythological
She's
monologues.
very mystical. And was she Irish?
I don't know. I feel like no one had a very strong Irish accent, which was interesting.
I feel like the
me.
Irish accent truly isn't that strong, right?
I think it depends on the region. But yes, you're correct. I think certain regions
I
have
think she had a very faint
more of a
Irish
brogue
accent.
than others.
And she's got her hair just made me feel like she was Irish in a way.
I mean, absolutely. I'm telling you, she was giving off the Halloween Town witchy vibes.
So now we're back to them throwing the bike down. And then what happens next? Then it's a new night.
Then I think it's like it becomes winter. We're kind of going crazy. Like not montage, quite montage, but just like this period of time where they're trying to like.
There's a montage in this movie?
It wasn't really a montage. It was more like she had a voiceover talking about how it was winter and they were like kind of at their wits' end. And Sierra's kind of getting all like sad and depressed. And Daniel doesn't catch the bird and Madeline yells at him. And then Dakota's drawing on the floor a map of the. She's an artist, is very briefly described. And then she realizes Sierra has disappeared. And I don't know why this alarms her because it's daytime. But she like runs after her and she's like standing on top of the burrow and she's like, my husband is dead. I need to jump into this burrow and be with him. Shouldn't I be with him? And Mina's trying to like talk her down from it. And there's this terrible scream. And it's Madeline. But they run and Daniel has completely snapped. And has like, he's trying to put Madeline in a trap.
Yeah.
Like,
didn't make any sense.
It was like, what is wrong with this boy? Like, I mean, I know she was just being really mean to you, but this is extreme. Like, you're trying to kill her. And then Sierra runs after Daniel. Mina helps Madeline.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have to hurry back. It's almost right. They have to hurry back to the cabin. And Daniel, in his crazy state, has locked them out. And is like to Mina, you shouldn't have helped her. And then he's like, you are bad. You are crazy. He's upset, I guess, that she showed a lack of humanity to the husband. But as a result, he's going to basically sentence them to death. And this is when it like starts to get really bad. I have to tell you, this is like the part where it made no sense. She's like, come with me. I'm like, there's another place to hide. Oh, no, there's not. There's just a tree. A tree stump that's turned on its side, one of those big trees, you know, in the woods. They climb into it. And then she says, look up. They look up. And then Mina says, it's rotting. And then Madeline says, hopefully it'll be enough to mask our scent. And I'm like, oh my God, these mystical creatures are sniffing them out. How do we even know that? Like, this is preposterous. preposterous. And then the creatures come and they were kind of creepy.
The monster design, 10 out of 10. They were terrifying. It was a terrifying reveal. And I was like, this movie's pretty bad, but this is pretty awesome.
They were like trees.
They look like Samara from The Ring.
Yes. But then also like human-ish. It was definitely creepy.
They have Samara's hair and then just like these really like long
that kind of bend both ways, like no elbows.
They'll crawl, but then they stand up really tall like trees.
And then they scream and like bring them all together.
And they're really freaky.
So then they go to the front of the house and Daniel is like yelling at the door. It was kind of endearing. Daniel and Sierra were holding hands, but they're like yelling at the window, like, they're not with us. They're not in here with us. And then the creatures start running all around to try and find them. Then they disappear. Mina and Madeline, they're like, they're looking for us. And then they get out of the tree stump, which has kept them safe. I'm like, what are you doing? If they can smell you, they're going to come back. And they run to the cabin. They're like, let us in. We don't have much time. Let us in, Daniel. And then they choose, I guess we've missed the flashback. We'll have to go back to that. But they choose to do the stupidest thing. Okay, I'm so upset we're talking about this because I'm just getting mad. Daniel's still refusing to let them in. And then Mina's like, Daniel, you'll regret this. When I was a little girl, my mother died and it was my fault. You don't know what this could do to yourself. You're a good person. I'm not. But let us in. And like, this is coming off the tail of seeing this flashback where a 7-year-old.
So is this when Mina's drawing the time lapse? She's like drawing on the floor. I think so.
Probably. Oh, and that's why she doesn't see Sierra leave.
Yes.
Okay. Because she's remembering a horrible incident from her youth where she's driving in the car.
Cringe-inducing.
And she was American, but it seemed like they were in Ireland. Like the mom was Irish. I was, again, confused. Mina, she's a twin. They're in the car.
They're in the back seat.
And the mom is like, what is Mina doing that's so bad?
She was rolling down the window or something, like, and it was like being really windy. And she's like,
oh, yeah, you'll mess up my hair, is what the mom said. Or like,
my hair, you must follow the rules.
And then
the mom starts rolling up the window in the front seat. And then Mina sticks her fingers in the window and her fingers get caught.
Which was actually frightening.
I thought it was cheesy as fuck. It was so cheesy.
What was cheesy to me?
The acting was very good.
That's what was cheesy to me. It wasn't so much that she put her fingers in the window. It kind of made me think of Hereditary. But the mom was like, Mina, what are you doing? And then, yeah, the car flips over.
Well, the mom is looking backwards, so she's distracted. And then I think a car like hits them.
Yes.
And then another stupid line happens. I don't know who said it. Yeah, Mina or a twin. Someone says, what happened to her? It's like, she's dead.
And
girl.
then the one sister was completely bloody, lying on top of the dead mother.
Yeah.
And it was a ridiculous image.
It was really ridiculous. And then Mina's like walking slowly towards her.
And then the sister says, why did you do that, Mina? Which is like, again, not a line that's necessary. Like we can understand that she feels guilty without it. And also what was really annoying about the scene was in the scene before, after the bike thing, Madeline says to her, you can't do that. You can't just break the rules.
Yeah, they were really.
And then in the next scene, they repeat that dialogue by having the mom be like, you always are never listening to my rules. And it's like, oh my God. And then immediately after, this gets repeated. This like, that's not how you do it. You have to weave it through. It has to be earned. It was just like thrown at you in 3 little scenes. And okay, at this point, I'm just like annoyed. I'm like, this is not good. But it can't get much worse. And at least it's still like somewhat entertaining.
But
they
get back let
back in. And then what happens?
So to get you caught up, Madeline and Mina are trapped outside the coop trying to get in. We've seen this flashback now. So then Mina's like,
she was like,
you are good.
Daniel, she was like, Daniel, you don't understand. When I was a little girl, my mother died and it was my fault. You are a good person and I'm not. And you don't know what doing something like this will do to you. And that works on him.
But we know nothing about Daniel, so it doesn't really make sense.
Like, why he even did this in the first place?
Yeah. So they get inside and then...
I did like the part Madeline like walks over to Daniel and like gets in his face but doesn't say anything and just like, I'm like, yeah. Like, sorry,
because she's complex. She understands the emotions of humans.
True.
If only there's a future flashback where we can see all these moments spliced together. Are they angry or like what do the watchers do?
I think
yes, they're pissed.
Is that when they?
Yes.
This movie seems like so much shorter as I'm describing it than what the hell it was.
They start ripping at the door.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna get in.
Madeline's like, we must push the table against the door.
And they like talk about how they're gonna die. Like if they get in here, we're gonna die. Yeah. But also the dialogue was very bad.
It was really bad dialogue, so you didn't really feel the tension. And then Sierra's like, what is this? What is this? And underneath the table the whole time, there was like this trap door.
Which we just have to like pause here.
How did they not search every nook and cranny
They've
of this
been
place?
Trapped there for months. And Dakota is drawing on the floor. It's ridiculous.
So Mina goes over and pulls the carpet away. They open up the hatch that looks kind of like a burrow.
I know, I was a little freaked out.
Mina's like, I'm going down. I'm going down. And they all get in, and Madeline closes the hatch just as the monsters were coming in. But then the monsters don't have to open a door.
Well, it's like locked from the inside, is my understanding.
Oh. So now there's like this safe underground bunker. Some more poor dialogue, and Daniel's like, all this food we could be eating. We have food for months.
It was like, all right, we get it.
We like to say in all M. Night Shyamalan movies, all the characters have to state their age
Which
and occupation.
They did do at some point. I can't remember in what capacity, but that happened. And then another really terrible scene happens. There's a computer down there, a really old computer. And then there's a series of video diaries. And I was like, all right, it's a little cheesy, but okay. All right, let's see what's it's going to say. They proceed to watch. This goes on.
For so long.
For like 10 minutes. They watched so many of these videos when like two, I would say one, but okay, two would have sufficed.
They played like 7 or 8. It's all these videos of the professor that we've heard so much that Mina had no curiosity about, but now is very curious about because now there's video footage. So she's clicking on these videos. You come to find out that the professor has built this bunker with the help of the townspeople.
Who he was murdering.
Who he's murdering. Doesn't make sense how this bunker would have to take months to build.
Well, someone on Reddit was pointing out how this is a huge plot hole because there's no way you could have built that concrete bunker beneath it without like crane, like, you know, that like serious equipment. And it was like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
There's no way.
But he like planned this horrible idea of he's like, oh, I'm a terrible person. These people come out to help me, and every night I tell them to get their supper while I hid in the bunker and they'd be murdered. I'm terrible.
I'm a bad person.
They're all like surrounding the computer, just being so like engaged. And then they click on like later videos because it's all like in chronological order, right? So Mina, of course, started with video 1. So she's going through the first couple ones, and then it's revealed through video, which some might say is cheating exposition, is then she like clicks on another video, and the professor, he's like, I've got one. And you see that he's captured one of the watchers and chained it in a room. And I was really excited about this moment because I thought it was going to be a reveal that there was a watcher loose downstairs. I was really excited for that. But no.
Instead,
that'd be too interesting.
Everyone decides to kind of lose interest except for Mina. Yeah. Which was weird.
It was very bizarre. Everyone's like,
we don't have to be watching this.
And then fucking Sierra's like, I want to dance. There's a cassette tape. She starts dancing with Daniel. And Daniel's like laughing. It's like, what the like, this is so totally off. Like, your husband's dead. You were just like devastated mere hours ago. And now you're just fucking delusional dancing.
Wait, we forgot about the video. He's saying in earlier videos, he's like, I found one out there during the daytime and it was different from the others. It was like a little girl. And that's implied that's the one he kidnaps. And then at the end, he's like, there's no way out for me. I've made such terrible mistakes. Somebody needs to go to my office university and destroy all my files so no one comes back here. And the only way out for me, he's like writing a novel. He's like, and then he's like, there's only way out for me, and it involves 2 bullets. He like holds up the gun, and he like climbs up the.
Wait, no, but then he also says,
"Oh yeah."
He's like, "Oh, by no point of return, number 143. That's where the boat is. I believe that's why I left it. Of course, yes, that's right. That's where the boat is. 143. Don't forget it. I don't know who's listening."
But it was even more funny because he was like, "You go down the windy path."
It's like, who the fuck?
143, and then turn left and follow the birds. Follow the birds.
Yeah. At first, it's presented like he's like reminding himself of this out loud, but then you realize he's like, in case anyone comes across this footage and is listening.
Just in case you do it, then you watch a million videos.
By the way, I'm about to murder myself and the watcher. I have shown no compassion for humans at all until now.
And then he goes up there, and there's something very disingenuous that happens. They specifically ensure that you hear 2 gunshots, which is very disingenuous based on what happens later on.
Wait, yeah, what
that
the
is
fuck?
That's cheating. Unless they were to show us that scene and explain why there were 2 gunshots, it's cheating. So I was a little annoyed about that too.
So anyway, everyone seems to be not interested in this man who's
and then Mina goes, well, we'll leave tomorrow. And then they go to bed, and that's when the dancing happens. And that's when Daniel randomly reveals that he had an alcoholic father who abused him.
I could not understand him past his act.
It was a sad story, but it was like, what is happening here? Why is he telling this story? It has nothing to do with what's going on.
And then it seems to look like it's like 10:30 in the morning when they step outside the bunker. And they're like, we must leave now. It's like, you should have been leaving at sunrise. Like, what the fuck? And they're even like posing before they like go off into the distance. Like, you should be in a dead sprint. What the fuck are you doing? They're just like kind of like walking through. It's like, no, you should be in a dead fucking sprint this whole time.
Oh my God, yes.
They get to no point of return, 143. And then they proceed to go past,
wait.
strolling along.
Don't forget the most hilarious, crucial element here. Follow the birds. Well, thank God Mina worked in a pet shop and brought a freaking bird to the woods. that she then can let out of its cage.
Well, yeah, what birds were this supposed to follow? The crows.
I know, but
it's like, why the double amount? They never followed crows.
They only came in that one point in time every night. You know what I'm saying? So they're supposed
to wait.
They just they need to have a bird. That's like really, it only would have worked if they had the bird. But
how did he know to give that advice for the birds, the way they're flying?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Like, did he try to test this out? But doesn't make any sense.
It just like really annoyed me that
this movie doesn't hold up to logic.
It's so convenient.
At all. Yes, they conveniently have this golden bird. Did they let it out?
Yes. And then they were somehow able to track it the whole time. I'm like, that bird would be gone.
That bird would be gone. And also, it doesn't make any sense. This bird's flying away because then they come across this giant, like, circular figures in, like, stone.
Yes.
And Madeline immediately, without hesitation, she's like, oh, this must be where they trapped them. Oh, and then earlier in the movie, she was like, the Watchers, they have many names. They go by blah-blah-doo, da-ba-da-dee, da-ba-da-da, fairies, blah-blah-doo, da-ba-da-da. And then she, like, proceeds to, like, call them fairies for the rest of the movie. She's like, this is where the fairies were buried. Like, can't you on the like gravestone they had wings? She's like, they used to have wings, they were beautiful, they could fly,
and they could mate with humans,
they could mate with
and they were
humans.
Called halflings.
They were called halflings. They were trapped in this tunnel, and through their anger they lost their wings. They could no longer fly. They're like penguins. She didn't say that, but
it was a history lesson.
But it was a history lesson. But she's like caressing the stone, and it's like they're coming, like the sun is setting.
It makes no sense. It's like, what? They stopped. They stopped. What are they doing?
They stopped.
They need to get
the fuck out of here. She also revealed before, like, the whole bunker professor thing. She's like, I had come here because I was curious. I wanted to research them.
That's so true.
I intentionally came here.
I forgot about that.
And I'm a fairy fanatic. Shabba-da-hee. So anyway, she does a quick little history lesson. They all pass with flying colors. They get a 5 on their AP exams. They continue running, following the golden bird who's kindly waited for them to lead them to the water. They finally proceed to get to the water, and it's this gorgeous shot of like a lake with green mountains. Yes, it's beautiful, but they all again stop and are like staring at it, and they're like,
and this is what they say: we made it out. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
Haven't.
He said to get in that boat. What are you doing? You don't have time. Well, and they did something creepy where, like, toward the end, they're like, we're not going to make it. The birds fly overhead, and then, like, they start getting chased. You can, like, feel the Watchers in the distance. And I did kind of like that, but then when they would stop, I'd be like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, they're coming at a dead sprint. Daniel gets distracted. He thinks he sees Sierra's husband, but it's like, there's been no relation built up. Why, of all people, is Daniel the one staying behind?
I agree. I didn't know it wasn't Sierra.
It should have been Sierra. So then Sierra, Madeline, and Mina get to the boat. They're like, uncovering it. They're all getting in the boat that turns out to be a rowboat. And
then the creatures come.
I didn't know the rules was that they couldn't leave the forest.
I didn't either. They didn't really establish that.
And so I was like, aren't they just gonna like get in the water and like chase you? You need like a speedboat. They all get in the boat, and then Sierra notices that Daniel's still back there. And at this point, what you think is her husband creature is like attached itself to Daniel and is like sticking his finger in Daniel's forehead. And
Sierra wants to go back. And they're like, hell no, we have to leave.
So they get in, and then it could have been a cool shot, but it was kind of cheesy. But it's like
the CGI wasn't as good.
The CGI was kind of bad. Along the water, all of the creatures line up, including Daniel has now become this halfling.
And then they do this really silly thing where they zero in on the husband. He like snarls.
I thought it was Daniel.
Oh, maybe it was. I don't
remember. It was Daniel, and the creepy husband was like behind him.
You know what this reminded me of? It was like a poor man's version of Hard Home in Game of Thrones. Do you remember that episode? No. When they're up north and they're trying to like gain allies among the wildlings and convince some of them to come back with them. They're like, okay, yeah, like some of them can come back with you, and they're like getting ready to load everyone in the boat. And then all of a sudden the White Walkers and like the big bad Icemen appear. It's like a zombie, like they have to like close the, you don't remember this?
No.
Oh my gosh, we have to watch it. They close the gates, and then like there's like this frenzy killing, and they're trying to like get people onto the boats. And at the very end, they're out on the water, and like the zombies are like stopped at the water's edge so they can't swim. And then they like look back, and everyone that was dead, the man, like the Iceman raises his hand, they all stand up.
Oh my god.
And then the Iceman just kind of looks at Jon Snow, and it was so chilling and so great. And this was not that. Yeah. Hard Home, great episode of TV, folks.
What if would it be so cool if they like got to like redo the final season?
That'd be unprecedented and freaking amazing.
Isn't that a good idea?
It's a great idea. They probably wouldn't want to do it.
Instead of like rebooting a whole show, like literally just redo the...
Just like fix it.
Because then it's admitting defeat, right?
Yeah. You have to stand by what you created, right? Like you can't...
It was so disappointing.
It was.
It was rushed.
It was rushed.
Is the problem.
It was rushed.
Kind of like this movie in a way is rushed. Like
it wasn't enough character building. Really.
No character building, which is why I'd be curious if the book like gave, because I think there's like stuff that must have happened in the woods that they kind of like brushed past.
I think that there probably was, especially like with the way Daniel was characterized.
Yeah, because there's definitely,
I'm sure there was an explanation.
As we get to the finale, there's like definitely character driven decisions that make no sense because we didn't see it.
Yeah.
Like heads should be rolling at the end. And let's just say heads don't be rolling.
So then they escape.
In the boat.
And then worst part of the movie happens.
They get discovered by a tour bus.
And they get on. It's actually kind of an interesting scene because the bus driver's like, sure, you can get on.
But it's doing that weird muted thing again where like all the extras have no personality. In fact, they kind of look like sinister and
I
like
thought they definitely looked sinister.
Annoyed that they were getting on the bus.
I kind of was intrigued because it's like they're watching them. It's like, who are they, the monsters? Who are they watching? Like, I kind of didn't bother me. Then they get in the back and they're all three in a row and the bus like lurches and they're kind of lurching. And there's like an old man sitting 2 seats in front of them. He's playing his radio very quietly and it's a beautiful Irish jig. Some traditional Irish music. And Mina speaks up and, you know, she's kind of a gruff lady. She doesn't mind being rude, but she says, "Excuse me, sir, could you please turn that up?" And then they blast that Irish jig.
Which is a ode to Casablanca's Play It Again, Sam.
It was like a bulletin, like, Irish people did not write this movie.
Yes. So it's like so cheesy. And then Mina's like, let's like not talk about
She's
this.
Like, I'm going to go to the university and destroy all the files. And then we'll just pretend that happened.
And then it shows the bus exterior. It starts panning out. And I was like, oh, is that the end of the movie?
That's what I thought.
I thought it was over. I was like, oh.
I was like, okay. And honestly, I was ready.
I was ready to go. But no, it proceeds to become this investigative ghost story. Not well done and really rushed because it's probably only like...
It was like 15 minutes.
15 minutes, not even maybe. Last night I compared it to like when Naomi Watts' characters in The Ring is doing research, learning more about the lore, which was like really creepy and exciting. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do with this movie.
I thought of a sillier comparison after that, by the way. It reminds me of the scene in Twilight in the first movie when somebody from Jacob's family like mentions vampires, like the Legend of the Cold Ones, and then Kristen Stewart goes home and she like goes to Yahoo or something like that and she types in the Cold Ones and there's like always like little like clips from very 2000s websites about vampires and then she's like and then the next thing she like turns up to Rob Pattinson in the parking lot. She's like, "Come with me," and they like walk into the woods and she's like, "I know what you are." He's like, "Say it out loud, vampire." And that's what it reminded me of. Which
reminds me, to tie it all back together, the Secret Garden movie that I mentioned is there's a scene, that whole movie, what is it? You guys like,
yes!
It's kind of like Halloween Town in a way where Anna's knows
mom
that you all have
doesn't want us to explore magic.
You like believe that you have magical powers and then you go to like, I'm putting my fingers up in quotation marks. It was like the library, but it was our kids' study downstairs. You like go on and you're like, searching witchcraft, but all I have you do is like go on Amazon.com and type in witchcraft and you pull up a book and I'm pretty sure it shows like the Amazon like seal as you're like clicking through like, oh my gosh, we are witches.
Whenever I tell my sister in the movie, "You can't tell mom, but we're witches." And she goes, "Oh, witches." I'm like, "Yes, you can't tell mom." And then Anna comes and she goes, "What are you two talking about?" I told you to sweep this play set because we live in a play set, not an actual cabin. And then we start sweeping the play set and it ends. This is so disturbing. Sister becoming possessed and we have to tie her up.
Oh,
and she's acting all possessed. It's very disturbing.
Is that the end of the movie?
Well, it was the end of part 1. We were supposed to do a part 2.
So Mina. That's how Madeline kept saying her name. Mina. It's like she'd stretch out. I honestly thought her name was Meena. The way she like stretched out the Mina. Mina. But it's Mina, which would be more like Mina.
Mina means.
Joe
Murphy can make those jokes because his name is Murphy.
Mina goes to the professor's office that they conveniently haven't changed in 30 years.
Are you
by
kidding
now.
me? Those younger professors would be clamoring for that space.
It's not only this like giant office, it has like a back office space.
Well, they made some weird comment like, "Oh, the students voted to preserve this." I was like, what? What are you talking about?
So Mina gets to go through this untouched professor's office. Why would they let this stranger in there? I don't know.
I know. Why did they believe her?
She is looking through and sees like a tapestry hanging on the wall.
Also, there's like so much material. She's never going to be able to get it all. No. It's insane.
There's a giant tapestry of one of the creatures, but they're like more beautiful with wings, and then a human, and then like a halfling between them.
And there's audio of like a lecture or something.
Okay.
Where he's like saying like they used to be able to mate with humans,
Yeah.
and then they had halflings or blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Who were half human, half fairy.
And she goes up and like caresses the tapestry in a really weird
And
shot
then-
that mirrored the time that she was tapping the
Yes.
glass.
And one thing that the audio said was they can change into anyone. Imagine what this could do if you lose someone. And so when she touched the tapestry, I was like, oh my gosh, is she going to go back and try and like bring her mom back to life? But I was like, it's kind of late in the movie for that. You know what I mean? So I was kind of confused. But no, that would have been an interesting story. They didn't go there. No. What ends up happening is she finds some photos.
And it shows a low angle shot of her looking at photos so you can't see what it is, but she's like,
And then what do you think it was, guys? What do you think?
what do you think?
What do you think she saw in the photos?
She drives to Sierra's
Yeah.
house and she's like, Sierra,
I have to show you
I wanna
something.
show you something. By the way, Sierra lives in an all glass house.
I do think there are some of those in Ireland, though.
She was too young to like afford
I
like,
know.
a giant
That's
house like this.
extremely true. It's also like very difficult to buy housing in Ireland, I would think. So.
And so Mia's like, look what I found. And she hands Sierra these 6 pictures. And comically, it's almost like a flip book where like it's like it shows the professors dancing with someone with white hair that is very clearly Madeline's hair. And for the very first picture, you can't see her face, but you're like, okay, it's Madeline.
She's like, she would have told us.
She's flipping through the pictures and it slowly like turns to reveal that it's Madeline. Dancing though.
I was just thinking about that.
She's looking at pictures of dancing.
And then she's like, they were married. She would have told us they were married. They were married, trust me. And she was like, also, this is like so melodramatic. I found an obituary. Madeline O'Connell, or whatever her name was, died of lung cancer in 2009.
It was just all so silly. Then Mina's like, she's a
watcher.
She's a watcher.
She's a watcher, Sierra. She's a watcher. She's
And
probably
then
coming here.
She's probably coming now. And I don't know.
They always come.
Yeah, so now instead of Sierra saying that they always come, now Mina's saying it. They always come. So it was kind of like a cool concept. There's like a reverse there in this house now. But I don't know what their plan was.
Well, me neither. And then a car comes, and then I suddenly was like, oh no. And then all of a sudden there's these cockroaches in the sink, and I'm like, oh my God. And then Sierra's getting out of the car. And then Mina turns, oh no, it's not Sierra. It's Madeline, a changeling. It's fake Sierra. And Madeline is like, I'm not getting Sierra 100% right or something like that. And then she like shifts. At one point she's Daniel. At one point she's Dakota. She like slams the real Sierra's head against the floor, knocks her out, and then kind of tries to do the same to Dakota, but like they're kind of in this battle. And then at one point she becomes Madeline again. And then there's this whole monologue where Mina is like, the professor didn't tell you something about who you are. And it's like, you have felt isolated by your people. Like you were the weird watcher that could be out there. And I think Madeline already said that, like, I was the strange daytime watcher and now I can finally be among them. No one's going to be able to find me out. I'm not going to let you stop me. And then Mina's like, he didn't tell you that our kind used to fall in love with changelings and like you are half human too. And I know you feel it on the inside because you understand our emotions. You protected us. And then they do this completely unearned montage of like, supposedly
so
moving
cheesy.
shots from earlier in the movie.
It reminds me of Practical Magic. Nicole Kidman's possessed.
Yeah.
And Sandra Bullock like touches Nicole's hand and then they flash back to every time they like touched hands to like connect. And in that movie it's a little more effective. And it was 1998 so they could be cheesy. But this is 2024 and they're doing this cheesy
and
fucking
it like wasn't
montage.
earned. Like it just
Wasn't
wasn't
earned.
The more she's talking about this, she's like convulsing.
Yeah. It was
Which is odd.
wings burst
yes.
out from back of her. And then she flies to the rooftop and then she's like,
And it's just like a bird.
she was still Madeline.
No, she was a bird. I'm telling you, she looked like a bird.
I don't know about that.
She,
I remember her face because then she like
I remember it
turns.
was all like
It was still her head. And
narrow.
she looks at me and she's like, I hope you're right.
Mina.
Mina. And then she like shoots off
away.
into the forest.
And then Sierra's okay. I was glad Sierra was okay. I was glad
But
she
it was
didn't
just like,
die.
what? Like, how did you not just get murdered? Like, what the fuck?
It doesn't make any sense. And also just like if you reflect on the whole concept of this, what? She
What?
was
That's
a watcher and she was staying in this house, but she wasn't hurting these people because she's really human and feels connected to them. And yet,
Or
like,
she's a halfling.
it just doesn't. And then how did she not know? And then
So
Joe
the-
made a really good point. She's been there the whole time. She was the professor's
Okay, but-
prisoner.
Are we both wrong about this?
She said he tried to kill me, the professor.
Okay.
So she was the prisoner.
But how could she be a halfling then? Because I thought halflings were offsprings of the
I
watchers
think-
and humans.
I think it was like not explained, but she was the little girl changeling out in the woods that could come out during the daytime. But where she came from, nobody really knows. Like, no, that was not explained.
Oh.
And so apparently she was like ostracized by the other watchers. And then he kidnapped her. And then he had her down in the basement thing. And then he tries to kill her where there's the disingenuous 2 gunshots, but it didn't work. She survived. And then she conveniently forgets about
this whole bunker.
The bunker. She also thanks Mina for, she's like, thank you. I never would have gotten out of that woods without you. But it's like, you knew about the bunker. There's a video down there that tells you how to get out of there. And also, you're a changeling, so you can go outside at night. So why are you not gone? I guess you could make the argument that she's trying to study the humans and like become perfect, and maybe she's like not good at human ways, so she like can't figure out how to use the computer. I don't really know, but it just felt a little weird. It didn't really make sense.
And then it's like what like Mina like helped her realize that she has become more human as she's like has wings and is flying.
And there was supposed to be some kind of like lesson about like how inside of us we have the capacity for rage, horrible behavior, and love and good behavior, but just like wasn't explored enough.
No.
And yeah, so then it ends with like Mina reconnecting with her twin, also played by Dakota, and she's recounting the story to her. Her sister, you know, it's like, you've been through a trauma, and it doesn't question her narrative, which good job, sister, for not being like, you crazy. This did not happen to you. I would have wanted to see that movie, but no, again, not what happened. And then she talks about how like sometimes she thinks she sees Mina like out in the world as like different with different faces, like a little girl, an old woman. She just watches me. I don't know what she wants. I hope she finds what she's looking for. And then it ends on a shot of a little redhead child staring up
I forgot about
at the window, and then turns to face the camera with a weird, scary face. And then just again, kind of offensive to Irish people, just kind of like ends on this mystical, ridiculous red-haired note. And there was a gay pride flag in the movie, and I was like, hey, look, it's queer. We can talk about QCC.
Like, please, no, please.
But I do think the whole monologue, how she felt ostracized, I was like, all right, I guess this could be kind of queer. She's half human, she's half monster. And that is the story of the Watchers.
That's the story of the Watchers.
And I do feel like she has potential to make a good story. I just don't think the writing is there. To be honest, I think everyone's writing can improve. If your basic instincts are so wrong, I just don't know if... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In February 2023, New Line Cinema announced it would produce The Watchers, written and directed by Ishana Night Shyamalan, in her feature directorial debut. That April, Dakota Fanning and Georgina Campbell joined the cast. Principal photography took place in Dublin, Wicklow, and Galway from July to September 2023. In mid-July, production was granted an interim agreement to continue filming during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. The film was self-financed by Ishana's father, M. Night Shyamalan.
He self-finances all his... Well, not anymore, but he did for a while.
To Warner Brothers for $30 million.
I mean, he really fell from Hollywood royalty, and it took him a long time to do the comeback. And to his credit, when he did have his comeback, he self-financed those first few movies in a way where the budget was low enough that they made like a great profit. And he like really did kind of earn his... right back to making these big blockbusters. And we did see the trailer for his next movie coming out in August, which looks hilarious in a great way. I'm excited for it.
Also, we forgot to mention throughout the movie, that bird can repeat what Dakota said about
oh my gosh. But only one phrase.
Please don't die.
It was really
Which
annoying.
I don't know why it would only say that.
It's probably from the book. That was the movie, and
that was the movie.
It was something.
We'll have to get up so early tomorrow morning. We've now done an early morning podcast. And this is the latest podcast we've ever done.
It is 12:09 a.m. Joe does not stay up this late.
But I was committed to doing a midnight podcast.
I admire your commitment, because I thought for sure you're going to say, no, we're not going to do this today.
I just knew we had to do it. So
I'm glad.
I have a pickleball tournament tomorrow morning, and
that's awesome.
We'll see how I do.
You're going to win. I have a pool party.
Well, you're going to win.
Well, we are going to play pickleball, so thank you.
I figure when this episode comes out, but...
sometime in June.
We have a lot of exciting things to look forward to. We're going to review Kinds of Kindness.
Maxine.
This
Summer I Turned Pretty.
We'll see about that one. That's going to be tough, because we have to collect Carolines. That's always a moving date.
She really wants to do it. She's going to listen to this podcast. She's going to hear that you said that. And then she's going to text you.
Not unless I snip it out and insert a different name. The Summer I Turned Pretty featuring Mina, special guest. I hope that's true, Mina.
You captured that really well.
What a dumb movie.
It was pretty bad. It was really bad.
And then we get in the car afterwards, and Allison's like, "How did that get made?"
I said nepotism is bad, because it just makes me mad that like everyone deserves a chance to like grow and change, but like it's not fair that somebody's attempt to grow is like their playground, or like their first attempts are like, here's a lot of money with which to do it. But hearing that it was self-financed, I guess changes my perspective on that a little bit. But
he took a swing for his daughter. That's kind of nice.
Sweet. It's sweet. And she did work her way up, and says that she directed some TV. She AD'd on a couple of her dad's films. So it's not like she just like, this isn't the first thing she's ever done. And that definitely was clear. Like, it wasn't an totally amateur situation happening here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was professional, but just not very strong.
No. What do we rate this movie?
I already did.
What'd you rate it?
A D on story and a C on everything else. Maybe like a B on tone. Because it was, like, you made that point that it tonally was very consistent.
I give it a C.
I mean, that, yeah, if you average it out.
This is Queer Cinema Catchup. I'm Joe.
And I'm Allison.
This is a podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens.
Mm-hmm.
We are available everywhere.
All the podcast platforms, TikTok.
You can try
YouTube.
to watch us, but we'll be watching you.
We are the watchers. And you are the listeners. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Good night.